Hello there, very good evening. This is the weekend edition of Primetime News on TV1. On behalf of the News First, the voice of the people, I'm Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this evening.
Frenzied government delivering deadly blows to the people. Opposition leader slams the government. Carcasses of turtles continue to pile up on Sri Lankan shores. Fishing allowed beyond the risk zone surrounding the sunken Express Pearl vessel. A statement from the State Minister.
විද්‍යානුකූලවත් කොහෙවත් කියලා නැහැ මත්ස්‍ය පරිභෝජනයේ නුසුදුසුයි කියලා.
Your top story this evening. Sri Lanka ruling party, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, has called on its Minister of Energy to resign for his decision to increase fuel prices. In a statement, SLPP General Secretary, Attorney at Law Sagara Karyavasam said the SLPP's attention was drawn towards pushing the government to a position to increase fuel prices with no alternative at a time when the people are already facing difficulties. It added that the subject minister had moved the government to a difficult position by not taking the necessary decisions at a time when it was understood that a situation would arise. The SLPP believes that the people should not be burdened any further, given that they are already under pressure due to COVID-19, said the statement. The General Secretary said the subject minister must take direct responsibility for the situation and be held accountable and must resign. Many sectors have been impacted due to the sudden increase of fuel prices. A decision has been taken to increase the prices of bakery items except bread, and a decision is to be taken to increase bus fares in the future as well.
How will the prices of bakery goods increase with the increase of fuel prices?
Most of the time we take steps to increase the price of bread. However, from tomorrow onwards, we have to increase the price of short eats as well. Otherwise, we have to shut all operations completely. We have to make a decision out of these two options. I saw a minister of the governing faction had said yesterday that we had dodged the ball. If this situation persists, the bakery owners will have to sell bakery goods at prices determined according to their whims and fancies.
Will bus fares increase?
Now we have to assess the incurred loss. To what rate the price of a tire has increased? Has the price of spare parts increased? We have to consider the price hike of lubricant oil as well. When fuel prices increase, even the price of a needle will increase indefinitely. We can compare these, assess the loss incurred and inform the National Transport Commission. We will have to amend the bus fare by 15% if we are not to encounter a loss. If we are to carry seated passengers only, we cannot be satisfied with the 15% amendment. Therefore, we will have to amend the bus fare by at least 25%.
The response of the fisheries trade unions to the fuel price hike.
Minister Uday Gammanpila and Minister Ajit Niwad Cabral says that this has been done to secure financial stability. Our question to State Minister Ajit Niwad Cabral is, didn't you think about financial instability when you defrauded money by purchasing Greek bonds? Didn't this occur to you when you committed a massive financial crime through the hedging deal? Did the cabinet think about financial instability when they decided to import vehicles? They do all these and ask the people to tighten their belts. They are loosening their belts. Minister Uday Gammanpila said that he was holding on to it for 21 days. His hands must be hurting now.
අල්ලන් ඉඳලා ඔයාගේ අත් දෙක රිදෙනවා ඇතිනේ. අත් දෙක රිදීම අමාරු වෙලාද ඊයේ රෑ 12ට අත් දෙක පැත්තකට ගන්න. මහත්තයෝ ඔය කතා කියන්න එපා.
At a time where large sums of money are being spent on fraud, corruption and lies in this country, please reduce the price of fuel for the betterment of the fishing community of this country and for the betterment of the general public of this country.
තෙල් මිල වහා පහත එලන්න.
The government decided to increase the price of fuel with effect from midnight last night. Accordingly, the price of a litre of 92 octane petrol was increased by 20 rupees, setting the new price at 157. A litre of 95 octane petrol was increased by 23 rupees. Thereby, the price of a litre of 95 octane petrol currently stands at 184 rupees. The price of a litre of auto diesel was hiked by 7 rupees, bringing the price of a litre up to 111 rupees. The new price of a litre of super diesel is 144 rupees with a price increase of 12 rupees. The price of a litre of kerosene was also hiked by 7 rupees, bringing the new price to 77 rupees. Meanwhile, the Lanka IOC too announced their fuel price hikes in line with the increase of fuel prices by Sipetco. Long queues were witnessed at filling stations before the price increase came into effect at midnight last night.
මේ වෙලාවේ මේ කරන දේ හරිද? වාහන ගෙන්නන එක මේ ප්‍රායෝගිකද? ආණ්ඩුවට තල්ලි දෙනවාද මිනිස්සුන්ගේ මේ රීරි මාස බොන්නේ?
කාලයකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා හිටියා ජනතා පාලකයෝ ජනතාවගේ පොඩි ගාණක් මොන හරි වැඩි වුණාම දැන් සැපද කියලා අහන පාලකයෝ. දැන් අපෙන් එක එක්කත් නැහැ දැන් සැපද කියලා අහන්නේ. කියන්නේ මුන්ට එන ගන්න ඕන මේ කරන අපරාධ වලට මේ වෙලාවෙ ඉතින් ඒ කට්ටියට ගොඩයක් ඉතින් අපිට ෂොට් එක දෙනවා.
38කට 40කට වගේ තියෙන කාලේ තෙල් මිල පහළ දැම්මේ නැහැ. ඒ වෙලාවේ කිව්වා අපි මේ වාසිය අරමුදලකට දාලා තෙල් මිල වැඩි වුණාම ඒකේ වාසිය පාරිභෝගිකයට දෙනවා කියලා. මේක පිළිබඳව ඉතින් ප්‍රශ්නාර්ථයක් තියෙනවා.
When the fuel prices in Sri Lanka were amended during the end of 2019, the price of a barrel of crude oil was around $60. However, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, global oil prices slumped to an all-time low. By May 2020, the price of a barrel of crude oil in the global market was as low as $26. However, the price of fuel in Sri Lanka was not reduced despite the drastic drop in global prices. The government justified maintaining the same price for oil despite the massive drop in global oil prices. It announced that the resulting additional income will be diverted to a fund that would be used to maintain the price of fuel in Sri Lanka, even when global prices are on the rise. We will create a fund to stabilize the fuel price. We will create this fund so that when global oil prices increase, the funds that have accumulated when they were low could be used to keep local fuel prices stable. However, the government had used the money in this fund to cover the losses suffered by the Ceylon Electricity Board. But this is how the subject minister justified the decision to increase fuel prices yesterday.
The government cannot continue to bear this massive loss. This was the longest time period during which fuel prices were unchanged, even when the global oil prices increased. By the end of 2020, the accumulated loss of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation was 331 billion rupees. So the institution is now at risk of not being able to service their debts.
This was the statement made by the chief government whip, Minister Johnston Fernando, regarding the financial status of the country.
They said that the government is bankrupt. They said that the government does not have any money. They said that the government and the president is begging from foreign countries. But today we have managed to stabilize the economy of the country. We have been able to manage our economy well by paying all the contractors on time. We saw recently when the vaccines were brought to the country, Ministers Namal Rajapaksa, Keheliya Rambukwella, Johnston Fernando and Mahindananda Alutgamage said that we have enough of money, we have no financial issues. They said we are waiting till China requests for the money to give it to them. But yesterday, Minister Gamman Pillai is crying in front of the media and saying we do not have money. It's hard for us to continue like this, so we will have to bear this burden. He said that the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is suffering losses of 330 billion. Not a single citizen of this country has purchased fuel on credit from a fuel station. The people are not in debt. After a group of cronies had got together and destroyed the Petroleum Corporation, now do not place the burden of these losses on the people. This is a grave crime.
Trade unions point out that the Petroleum Corporation is not in a financial crisis so severe to warrant an increase in fuel prices.
The government is still having a profit margin on the sale of fuel. I would like to say that they are lying and increasing the fuel prices. Is the oil price more than what the good governance regime left for you? No, there was a loss of 331 billion during this time period. The minister and chairman is saying that there is a profit of 3 billion. There is a contradiction here. It's clear that 4,550,000 litres of 92 octane petrol is being sold per day. Multiply this by 54 rupees of tax this government charges. From this tax alone, the government earns close to 230 million. That's not bad. Under the current rates, there is a 7 rupees profit per diesel litre. There is a tax of more than 44 million for a day. Instead of changing the price of a fuel litre, what must be done to cover the losses, give 20 rupees of the tax charged by the government to the Petroleum Corporation.
Meanwhile, convening a media briefing, the Janata Vimukti Peramuna expressed their stance on the increase of fuel prices.
The government's policy is to profit off a global market fuel price reduction while unloading the burden onto the people. The benefit was never given to the public when the price of a crude oil barrel dropped close to $40 recently. What did the government say then? They said the benefits will be given to the people in the future when the fuel prices increase. They even said a fund will be established to give the concessions to the public. We would like to ask the government what happened to that fund. We know that letters of credit were issued to import super luxury vehicles for the use of MPs, spending millions of public funds. Luxuries and privileges given to the ministers and MPs are not reduced one bit. The cost for that is charged from the people. After they came into power, they have been following their own formula and not the already established price formula. It is the people that get burdened by all these formulas. The public incurs the loss and the government profits. Sell these vehicles, do that and reduce fuel prices. The government is saying that it is unable to reduce fuel prices. We have a suggestion. Publicly auction the imported vehicles and cover the loss incurred by the Petroleum Corporation. Use the rest in purchasing equipment needed for the health sector.
During the recent past, we had a massive issue with fuel prices. I know that the public is suffering because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Increasing fuel prices is hard for us at this time too. I believe that the President has already instructed the ministry to implement a proper program to handle this issue.
When those in the ruling faction were in the opposition during the reign of the previous government, they questioned why the fuel price is being fluctuated. When the fuel price formula was being prepared, they asked why is the price of fuel increasing and decreasing according to global fuel prices. I remember once when fuel prices were hiked by 2 rupees, Mahinda Rajapaksa and his aides came to Parliament on bicycles. What are we to travel on now? All these will fall on to the people of this country. The government is spending money to import vehicles. I would like to ask the government, did you come into power to achieve this?
The prices of fuel increased suddenly. This is an exponential increase and there is an issue here. We cannot deny that. So if private buses resume their operations, we will have to consider it. If there was a slight increase, it would have been all right. But this is an exponential increase. When price of fuel was increased by 2 rupees, all of the MPs came to Parliament on bicycles. We would like to ask SLPP MPs, are you going to come to Parliament in carts? It has been over a year since the President was elected. It's been 10 months since the new Parliament was elected. Today, prices of goods including rice has increased drastically. People have lost their modes of income. The lives of the people have gone from bad to worse. We cannot find a person who voted for the Pohottuwa now. We would like to ask this government to leave and hand this country over to young leaders if they cannot manage this country properly.
Continuing with more news regarding the fuel price increase in the country, leader of the opposition Sajith Premadasa said that the government is making many anti-public decisions.
In a statement, the opposition leader said that the entire economy will unavoidably be disarranged and confused with the fuel price hike and will have an impact on the people's lives and many other sectors. He adds that the policies of the government are oppressive as the one it took to increase the fuel prices, being fully aware that it will lead to a rise in the price of essential food items and all consumer goods. The leader of the opposition points out that the government provided tax concessions to the rich people of the country on the 1st of December 2019, displaying its sympathy and affiliations with them, thus making the country lose 30% of its state tax income. The opposition leader cites that the government is now in a game of concealing that huge mistake of an unsuccessful tax policy by this fuel price hike, putting the general public at the receiving end of that burden. He further added that it is hilarious to expect people-friendly decisions from a government which invited dangers possible enough to destroy even the sea of this country after opening avenues for a huge sugar scam and coconut oil scam for the benefits of its cronies. In the statement, he points out that there are numerous instances of anti-public decisions this government has taken, although it is difficult to find a single people-friendly decision it has taken after coming into power.
At a time when the general public has been burdened with the increase in fuel prices, the debate on the import of luxury vehicles for parliamentarians continues to rage on. It was recently revealed that the letters of credit for the import of these luxury vehicles for parliamentarians were opened even before the Cabinet of Ministers granted approval for the move. If 200 vehicles are being imported at 50 million each, that will come to a total of 10 billion rupees. If that increases to 225 vehicles at 50 million each, that will be 11.25 billion rupees. If it increases to 227 vehicles, that will come to 11.35 billion rupees. So the government is trying to import vehicles valued at 11.35 billion rupees.
එනිසා රුපියල් කෝටි 1235ක් වටින වාහන තමයි මේ ආණ්ඩුව ආනයනය කරන්න හදන්නේ.
Meanwhile, when the central bank was questioned on the import of these vehicles, they said that these questions must be directed to the relevant bank and those who advised them.
මහබැංකුවේ අධිපතිවරයා මේකට දෙන උත්තරේ මොකක්ද?
What is the answer of the governor of the central bank to this issue? When the governor of the central bank was questioned how letters of credit were opened, even before getting cabinet approval, he says go ask that question from the Bank of Ceylon and the officials who instructed the Bank of Ceylon. That is what they said. The biggest issue here is that the central bank is a regulatory body for all these banks. Can the governor of the central bank make such a irresponsible statement?
මෙවැනි වගකීම් විරහිත ප්‍රකාශයක් කරන්න පුළුවන්.
Cabinet spokesperson Keheliya Rambukwala was questioned on this controversy today.
The Prime Minister presented a proposal to the Cabinet. We found this moment not appropriate. We discussed this on Monday. We decided to cancel it after discussing and coming to a clear agreement with the banks and the companies. This procedure took 1.5 days since this is a tripartite agreement with 3 parties involved. It has already been cancelled after the discussions were held. There is no point in shouting about it just because you are uninformed about it. Simply put the order and has been completely cancelled.
සරලව කියනවා නම් ඒ එනවම සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම අවලංගු කරනවා.
We now cross over to a short commercial break. More news on the other side.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk. We are in the midst of a global health crisis.
A pandemic that has devastated all our countries.
Vaccine development and vaccine deployment.
Need the vaccine equity issue to be. So harness the momentum and turn it into action. There is no choice but multilateralism for international cooperation.
Multilateralism and sustainable development. The UNGA's way forward. An exclusive conversation with the 76th President-elect of the United Nations General Assembly and Foreign Minister of the Maldives, Abdullah Shahid. Sunday, 13th June at 9:30 p.m. on TV1 and concurrent release on all Newsfirst digital platforms.
Welcome back to the news. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has instructed that the coastal belt stretching from Negombo to Panadura be opened as soon as possible following a proper study so that the affected communities in the area can resume their fishing activities that are obstructed at present as a result of the MB Express Pearl fire. The Prime Minister issued these directives at a discussion held at the Temple Trees today.
According to the Prime Minister's media division, the Prime Minister has instructed to obtain a full estimation report of the damages that has been caused to the country because of the fire that erupted on board the MV Express Pearl, to obtain full compensation from the mother company and to expedite the ongoing legal action to remove the ship from its location. At the meeting, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa had said that all legal matters pertaining to the ship must be undertaken by the Attorney General's department. The Prime Minister had gone on to note that the 5,000 rupee allowance will be distributed among the fishing community who were battered by the MV Express Pearl disaster. There was a conception that we let this vessel enter the country when other nations denied access to the vessel. That is the allegation that newspapers have levelled against the government. Honourable Prime Minister, this ship was a feeder vessel. This vessel travels from port to port. This was supposed to dock at 6 different ports. They started from Singapore. They journeyed for 30 days. This ship, which set sail from Singapore, reached Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, India, and only then did it enter Sri Lankan waters. So if someone says that any country did not accept this vessel, it is a lie. They have reached all these ports and unloaded containers. Nobody had rejected the ship. The Sri Lanka Navy has handed over the voyage data recorder of the ship to the CID. It is now in the custody of the CID. According to the data received by the harbour master, they have visited all of these ports and then entered our waters. There are about 20,000 people in the fishing community in Negombo who have been directly impacted from this issue. Honourable Prime Minister, you instructed that the 5,000 rupee allowance must be given to them. However, we have been unable to do that.
Thank you, sir.
We have to expedite the clearing process. We have to clean the area even by hiring a professional from overseas. We have mapped out the area to carry out this activity phase by phase.
A meeting to discuss the provision of concessions to fishermen affected by the Express Pearl disaster was held in Negombo today under the auspices of the Minister of Fisheries, Douglas Devananda.
The restrictions on fishing applies to areas close to the ship for the safety of the fishermen and fishing vessels. However, areas beyond that are open for fishing activities. Therefore, the people of Negombo are free to engage in fishing activities in the lagoon from today. We have submitted to the Attorney General the estimated damages caused to the fishermen. We cannot reveal that amount to the media as there is an ongoing court case. There is no scientific proof to suggest that fish must not be consumed. So we request the public not to create unnecessary fear on the consumption of fish. Carcasses of turtles continue to pile up on the shores of Sri Lanka today as well. As of now, nearly 25 sea turtles had washed ashore in various parts of the island.
The carcass of this turtle had washed ashore along the coast in Galle Face, Colombo today. Blood stains were visible on the body of the turtle. Bodies of turtles washed ashore along the coasts of Duvemodra Kosgoda in Galle and Mahaindurua. This is the body of the turtle that washed up on the shore in Kosgoda. Officers attached to the Wildlife Department in Hikkadua took the carcass of the turtle for investigation. The carcass of the turtle that washed ashore along the beach in Mahaindurua was taken away by wildlife officers attached to the Hikkadua Wildlife Office.
Minister of Ports and Shipping Rohit Abe Gunawardena said that an interim compensation of $40 million has been demanded from the operators of the sunken ship.
අපි මේ වන විට ගරු නීතිපතිතුමා සමග සාකච්ඡා කරලා අධිකරණ අමතුතුමා සමගත් ඒ සාකච්ඡාවල
Upon having discussions with the Honourable Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, $40 million has been demanded as an interim claim. As the first stage, we have demanded for $40 million. This will become a huge amount in the future. According to the recommendations of the committees, all 5 committees will meet at the Ministry of Justice next Monday. The compensation payments expected to be submitted in the second stage will be decided based on the information provided by the 5 committees.
ඒ සියලු දත්ත තොරතුරුත් එක්ක තමයි ඊළඟ දෙවනි අධීර සඳහා අපි අවශ්‍ය කරන ප්‍රමාණය ඉල්ලන්න අවශ්‍ය වන්දි ඉල්ලන්න කටයුතු කරයි.
Has the damage caused to our coast and environment through this disaster been accurately estimated? For how long will the repercussions continue? What is the impact on the economy apart from the environmental damage? If such a disaster takes place in the state of California, Australia or Singapore, the compensation payments will be discussed in billions of dollars. The minister speaks of an interim compensation of $40 million. Was the compensation for the empty New Diamond ship received? The people are watching.
වලිග ඇති ගොන්නු මැස්සන්ට බැටදුනේ වලිගය නැතිකමත් මේ අසරණ ගොවියා වැනි.
According to the plan announced by the government, farmers in Sri Lanka must completely switch to the use of organic fertilizer by the next Maha season. Thereby, this will be the last seasons where farmers in Sri Lanka will be allowed to cultivate using inorganic fertilizer. However, certain farmers have not received chemical fertilizer for their cultivations, even this season.
The fields in Retiyagama, Madadumbara are being prepared for the Yala season. Farming is the main mode of income for a majority of the residents here. These farmers are preparing their fields without any assurance that they will get fertilizer for their crops from the government. When we go to the market, they say that they don't have fertilizer. Some shops sell fertilizer between 2,500 rupees and 3,000 rupees. We cannot buy fertilizer at that price. We are simple farmers. Farmers in Mahalakandia, Ridigama, Ruhuna, Ambalantota yesterday staged this silent protest, demanding for solutions to the fertilizer crisis. They took our vote, promising us free fertilizer. If they are introducing compost fertilizer, there has to be some government program. There is nothing like that. Just because a few people produce some compost fertilizer here and there, that won't be a solution to those who cultivate 7 to 8 acres.
ගෞරවයෙන් ඉල්ලන්නේ මේ හංගගෙන තියෙන පොහොර ටිකවත් අපිට මුදලට ලබා ගන්න වෙළඳ සැල් වලට නිකුත් කරන්න කියන ඉල්ලීම තමයි කරන්නේ.
This paddy field in Villachia in Anuradhapura turned into an agitation site because of the ongoing fertilizer crisis. According to the farmers, the fields should have been nourished with fertilizer weeks ago. The protesting farmers also invoked the intervention of the gods.
අපි ඔබතුමාලගෙන් ඉල්ලන්නේ යාන වාහන ගෙවල් දරවල් ආධාර නෙමෙයි අපි ඉල්ලන්නේ මේ වෙලාවේ අපි ඉල්ලන්නේ පොහොර ටික ඔබතුමාලා කරුණා කරලා අපිට මේ පොහොර ටික ලබා දෙන්න කතාවක් තියෙනවා ගැමිවා.
We can see people shamelessly speaking to the media. These people are speaking nonsense. We do not want flyovers or expressways. The farmers who feed the entire country do not have fertilizer. The fertilizer that they said would be given for free is now not even available for purchase.
Meanwhile, the national organizer of the All Ceylon Agrarian Federation, Namal Karunaratne, visited Amara Udagama Varyapola in Kurunegala to look into the fertilizer issue faced by vegetable farmers there.
කස්ටම් එකේ මේනකොටත් හිර වෙලා තියෙනවා හාබ් එකේ හිර වෙලා තියෙනවා පෝර කන්ටේනර් පෙට්ටි 3ක්.
3 containers are stuck at the port. Organic fertilizer. They have been imported illegally. How can we believe the statements made by ministers at a point where organic fertilizer has already been imported? They are planning on bringing fertilizer from China. The first case of COVID-19 virus was identified from Wuhan, China. There is an attempt of bringing industrial waste, radioactive waste and electronic waste from China to Sri Lanka. Against such a backdrop, even the Secretary to the Ministry of Agriculture has resigned.
කාබනික ස්වරූපෙන් අපේ රටට එවන සැලැස්මක් පැහැදිලිවම තියෙනවා. ඔන්න ඕකත් එක්ක තමයි අමාත්‍යංශයේ ලේකම්වරයාත් ඉල්ලා අස්සුනේ.
An extraordinary gazette was issued on yesterday directing all importers, manufacturers, store owners, collectors, distributors or wholesale traders of rice, sugar, wheat flour and maize must register with the Consumer Affairs Authority within 7 days of issuance of the direction.
According to the Gazette, the Consumer Affairs Authority directs that no importer, manufacturer, store owner, collector, distributor or wholesaler who has in his possession, custody or under his control the following products mentioned herein, any warehouses, stores, containers and any other place unless such warehouse, store, container and any other place is registered with the Consumer Affairs Authority. The Extraordinary Gazette noted that no importer, manufacturer, store owner, collector, distributor or wholesaler shall keep the above products under his possession without being registered with the Consumer Affairs Authority and shall forthwith furnish information on demand to the Consumer Affairs Authority on the stock of product/products in bulk or in any other form in such warehouse, store, container and any other place. This direction shall come into effect from the 11th of June this year. However, the direction will not be applicable with regard to the storage of paddy and maize by the producers, the Consumer Affairs Authority emphasized.
A COVID update this evening. 1,633 COVID-19 cases were reported in the country today. This increased the total cases in the country to 220,556. 2,426 individuals recovered from the virus today, taking the total recoveries in the country to 186,516. 2,073 fatalities were reported due to COVID-19 in the country thus far. A group of residents who are undergoing quarantine at their homes in Matugama staged a silent protest in front of their homes today.
Residents in the Tambarati Gram Seva division in Matugama expressed their opposition in this manner, citing although COVID-19 cases have been discovered from their area, the attention of the government or from any responsible authority has not been focused to their village. The residents alleged that they have not received the concessions given by the government. We have not even received the vaccine so far. We have a regional committee in the village that comprises of 40 families. Family members of 4 families have succumbed to the virus, but no one has looked into this so far.
Bangladesh all-rounder Shakib Al Hasan has been banned for 4 matches, along with a fine of 500,000 rupees, Bangladesh rupees, following his on-field meltdown during a match in the Dhaka Premier League. Shakib Al Hasan had shown dissent against umpire's decision not once but twice, kicking and uprooting the stumps during the match. Mohammedan skipper Shakib was first furious at the umpire's decision to deny him an LBW appeal against Mushfiqur Rahim, and was then angered by the umpire's decision to take the players off the field with 1 ball remaining in the 6th over as the rain came down. The all-rounder also got into a scuffle with the opposition coach Khalid Mahmood, who is also the Bangladesh Cricket Board director. Before meeting the leaders of the world's major economic powers at the G7 summit in the UK, Antonio Guterres said he was concerned that the richest nations have pumped billions of dollars more into fossil fuels than clean energy since the pandemic, despite their promises of a green recovery.
We are in a situation in the world where the average temperature rise in relation to pre-industrial levels is already 1.2 degrees. Very close to the 1.5 degrees that the international scientific community tells us is the limit to avoid the catastrophic developments in the world. The truth is that developed countries have not yet delivered in relation to the promises that were made in Paris, and namely in relation to the mobilization of $100 billion of support every year to developing countries. And so one of the things that I believe is very important from the point of view of the G7 and the G7 countries is to clarify how this 100 billion will materialize in 2020.
Today is the 29th Russia Day. Let's take a look at the significance of Russia Day.
On this day in 1990, Russia proclaimed state sovereignty and adopted its modern declaration, flag and national anthem. Although Russia Day has been celebrated since 1992, it is considered one of the country's youngest holidays due to its official renaming on the 1st of February in 2002. Russia Day is a national holiday of the Russian Federation celebrated on the 12th of June. Since the adoption of the Declaration of State Sovereignty in 1990, the Russian Federation has endeavored to build friendly relations with foreign partners based on the principles of the UN Charter, respect for the sovereign equality of states, non-interference in internal affairs, settlements of disputes by political and diplomatic means, and renouncing the threat or use of force. Many Russians view today as the informal start of the summer season. The day is generally marked with concerts and fireworks that take place in many cities throughout Russia. Prominent Russian writers, scientists, and humanitarian workers receive state awards from the President of Russia on this day. Russian President Vladimir Putin said the assistance that Russia provides to other countries with the coronavirus vaccine is its responsibility to the world as a leading scientific power. He noted that the power of the Russian scientific school was clearly manifested last year when, I quote, people around the world were waiting for salvation from the coronavirus pandemic from scientists, and our researchers have achieved success. We can call it a triumph, end quote, Putin stressed. His Excellency Mr. Yuri Materi, the ambassador of the Russian Federation to Sri Lanka, in a statement said, and I quote, Russia Day is a symbol of free and future-oriented Russia with such core principles of our development as freedom, rule of law, successful economic growth, consolidation of friendship of the people living in the country, utmost promotion of democracy, and strengthening of our foreign policy, unquote. He added, and I quote, the Russian-Sri Lankan relations provide a good example of sincere friendship and mutual understanding that can exist between two countries, and that I am confident through joint efforts we will continue enhancing our cooperation in political, trade, economic, cultural and humanitarian spheres for the benefit of our people. End quote.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1. For details of these stories and much more, simply log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. For the Newsfirst, the voice of the people, I am Martin Satyanesan, along with sign language interpreter Tharaka Gabriel. You take care and good night.